welcome with Dr. Maria Asher Baptiste on our 360 view with our very special guest. As you know, this show has been sponsored by American Caribbean Chamber of Commerce, and we would like to thank them for always supporting what we are doing. And as you all know, guys, that in this podcast, we talk about all the essentials such as legality, human rights, issue that's matter with life, as all that you know about COVID-19 is one of the big topic that we've been focusing on lately. So on today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Bolivar, all the way from Canada, that's going to give us a bit of what is happening in Canada, as well as elaborate more with us on the topic of revolutionary shifting during COVID-19 crisis. So welcome again, Dr. Bolivar. The floor is yours. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the guest and let the guests know a little bit about yourself before we go right into our discussion tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Baptiste, for this invitation. So I'm very glad to be with you today to talk about COVID-19 and some of those social and economic implications of this pandemic in Canada. So pretty much my name is Dr. Bolivar, Barthelemy Bolivar, as Dr. Baptiste just said it earlier. I'm here. I'm here to talk about COVID-19 and the social implications, and also the kind of measures that were taken by the government actually in Canada, or are taken by the government in Canada right now to ease the process and to help everybody to move on and to get back to a kind of normalcy. But we have to wait anyway, and it's not at the same speed depending where you are in Canada, which province you are living in right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for a nice introduction. So because what we are going to be discussing today is very important, is that we want to, before we go into deep detail, can you tell us a bit about what is the precautionary measures that the government is taking into consideration in Canada? And then secondly, elaborate where the spike of the pandemic is taking place in, Canada.
First of all, talking about those kind of precautionary measures that are taken actually. First of all, you have a confinement, you have the physical distance or social distance that should be respected. For example, if you go to the store, you have to keep this kind of 2 feet, right? Um, uh, the 2 feet. Benchmark, right? And the non-essential services are closed right now. And I can tell you, they are like, if your provinces want to, those things to get to normal, we open by as early as Monday, right? And but actually, I think like those big events, like sport events and everything, those things we have to wait. And I don't know, but not before September, according to what I've learned from the news. But actually, when you talk about the spike, and Quebec actually is the province where that is, I can say, the most affected by COVID-19, with 29,656 people infected. And do not forget that for the whole, in Canada, we have pretty much 56,714 cases. So pretty much Quebec is around like a kind of more than 50% of those cases are in Quebec actually.
Wow. Wow. I see. So your major spike area is Quebec. I also saw that you got a spike of 17,000, which is like in Ontario. Uh,
Ontario will be the second. Yeah, will be the second one with the 119 people affected. So pretty much those two provinces are the most really affected, and after you have Alberta,
Hmm.
the third one, and British Columbia the fourth one. So pretty much those kind of, and it's normal too because those provinces are more crowded than the
Hmm.
others. So when you take those three provinces, pretty much you have more than half of Canada's population, pretty much.
Correct, correct. I saw that. And
Yeah.
so, with that being said, you said something that really struck my attention is that you had said that they will be opening, certain businesses at certain percentage. Now, why do you think there is a rush? Has a person who is in science, math, and technology, why do you think there is a rush for opening businesses, even though that it's not quite safe for people to really roaming around?
Yes, I think there are like some major considerations to pretty much to work on. Actually, you have the safety of the population, and you have COVID-19, and the kind of transmission rate is actually very high. Okay, compared to when you compare that to other viruses, and we know actually, for example, in Japan, they just open things and now they have to close back because they wash it out. Uh, but what I'm trying to see here, in Quebec, for example, they want people to go back to school, and we can say first it's not mandatory, but there's a kind of expectation that kids will be, will go to school in May, like maybe next week, by next week. At the same time, you have a kind of uh, all those workers, right, organizations saying that they are not ready, they are not fully protected. So teachers will not, want to go back to class right now and pretty much put their lives in jeopardy. um, and then so you have a wash for people to get back to normal, and do not forget that at the same time you have some mental issues too. I don't know if you read about it, but there are like more than 34% of increase in terms of the domestic violence, right?
Correct,
So
correct, correct.
so there's a kind of mental health burden, right, on into the system, and in those countries like in Canada, for example, with the weather being more clement, right, those days,
Mhm.
and people just just went through a very hard winter. So now when they see the sun, they see good weather, so people want to go out and socialize and meet again, and pretty much um, get everything they didn't get and things that they took for granted before COVID-19, so they can enjoy again. So you have this kind of mental health issues also behind people staying all day working at home on the screens, right, with kids at the same time working and parenting, and
Mhm.
everything, right, around it, and
Mhm.
also taking care of themselves, taking care of people sometimes that are sick, or maybe they have just they lost their jobs. So you have a bunch of things together to consider when you see this kind of pressure to reopen the economy. Now, also that, for example, in Canada, now I think there are like several $100 billion for businesses, right, to help businesses recover. So
Correct.
remember that the government also have some package for people who are not working, actually sending them because of COVID-19. if
Mhm.
if your if the business or the company you're working for are closed, or you lose your job because of sickness, right, or one of your parents you have to take care for, lose, you have to lose, if you lose your job because of this. So pretty much you will receive something for the government. It's pretty much $2,000. Okay,
Mhm.
a $2,000 for 4 months. So meaning $8,000 for any household head. So when you think about this, so the longer we keep the economy closed, the longer the government has to provide, right? and the longer also you have to help those business survive, because among those business you have like some business that are very essential pretty much later on, so you have to keep them working, and in order to do that you have to continue to support them with a kind of economic oxygen machine
Yes.
things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think there's a pressure because now the Canadian government is very generous, but some people now start thinking, oh, maybe the government went too far with this package, right? Because we're gonna pay afterwards, right, for all those money.
Correct.
So
Correct.
pretty much you are with a 37 million people, right,
Mm-hmm.
in their houses, and now they consume more internet, more electricity, more water, right, everything. And then, and before COVID-19, the mental health was a big issue with some overconsumption of opioid, right, and everything, drugs and
Correct.
name it, right?
Correct.
And by the way, the alcohol consumption now, we know that has been increased for like 30% in some region. Okay,
Wow.
so we have to actually sometimes there's no yes or no answer or bad or good answer. It's about to see which ways to go, because we have to make a decision between stay home or not staying home. And if you stay, those are the right the consequences. If you don't stay, though, there
Mm-hmm.
are other consequences. So pretty much that's what they are dealing with right now. Sorry,
Uh,
because my answer was so long and
no, it's okay.
yeah, but it's a kind of complex issue. We have to go at different angles to understand it better.
No, I do understand because you are in the ecosystem, so you better understand the autonomy of what's going on there. So I really thank you for elaborate a bit. So meaning that although that it is a risk, there may be a spike in more cases, but because it's a double-edged, decision, so then it's a pressure to say, okay, well, I'm gonna open, to have the economy to start booming so that more money can comes into the economy and people can have some sense of normalcy. Since this happened, normalcy has not been what everybody used to. It's no more normalcy because, being that people are human,
Mhm.
that struck my mind that we understand we have liberty, but
Mhm.
the liberty that we have when we in a state of mind where we cannot move around, even though that we're not, indirectly incarcerated, but the psychological mindset make ones feel that they are incarcerated because they don't have the freedom to go in and out as they selected to do. And so you have that implication not only within the, you know, mental health issue becoming to increase, but you also have that spike where individual may take advantage of it, or where individual may say, you know what, um, forget all about all of this. I'm just going to go out and do what I want to do. So the economy and the government really have a tough spot in making that decision. But my question's going to ask you in this, complexity of this, ecosystem has a science and math and technological person, do you believe in your perspective that it is a premature decision, in regard to numbers and technologies, data that's incorporated? When you look at the data, as you know, you can't fight data. And so
No.
there's data in front of you that says this spike is still here. We're still dealing with this. So in your perspective and your feel, is it the right decision to deal in that ecosystem by sending people out prematurely? Or do you think that the answer of them going out prematurely by the government is something to really preserve the economy instead of really preserving the life of the people?
Pretty much what I can tell you is there's also a kind of load into people like mental health issue things because of the freedom that they enjoyed before. Now they don't. Okay, they cannot, or they are not enjoying right now. But getting back into science and data. Okay, so what I don't think it's just a question of reopening the economy. It's how we open the economy and what is the pace of the rhythm, right? You will do it. If you do it like a step, one step at a time, you know, now you pretty much really you can close it, you can shut it down whenever you want, right? Because you can control it.
Correct.
So pretty much it's a kind of landing, right? When you're landing an airplane. So exactly the
Correct.
same. You should go like really a bit by bit, like very small chunk. Okay, if because according to the data, if you just go normal, like to back to what we have before COVID-19, I can I can tell you that could be very scary, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
if you're trying to reopen, first of all, you increase the testing, right? Now I know in Manitoba, everybody wants to be tested or have a kind of symptoms can be tested. That's a good thing, right? So meaning testing is not only available, but people can get access to it, and there's no barriers, right, to testing. So
Correct.
mass testing, I think, will be something very, very important. If you have mass testing in place, okay, if also people wearing some mask at some points, right? If
Mm-hmm.
people keep the distance, right, thing, and you don't have like restaurant, for example, you cut them by 50%, right,
Mm-hmm.
where people can really, okay, if they sit down, but they just they can sit up a very not far, but respecting the physical distance that we put in place. If you can do those things while you reopening the while you reopen the economy, people are still in a safe place or in a safe position, right?
Correct.
To move forward. But the thing is, unless we find a vaccine, um, unless we have a treatment for it, right? We should be very cautious. So pretty much, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
for this kind of electronic surveillance thing because I think that it's going too far, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that yes, you have to protect people, but at the same time, you cannot, like, there's a point not to cross in terms of protecting people, right?
Correct.
And then
Correct.
that's why people want to go to war to be free, right? If people want to put their lives
Correct. Correct.
into the field to be free, meaning freedom is something very, right, valuable.
Correct. Correct.
It's a big thing. So you cannot like just like to having this argument to protect people, and you just work on the freedom and go very, very, very far into the freedom. I think at a certain point you are not a human being if you're not free. For me, that's my point,
Correct.
right? because
Correct.
because if you cannot make a decision, you like a living thing, but you're not a human being. You can be really
Correct.
like a like a tree, right?
Correct.
So you
Correct.
need a certain frame to exert to pretty much exercise your freedom, and it's very important. If that is taken apart, I can tell you people will die not from COVID-19 but from other things,
I agree with you.
from
I
from
agree
blood
with you.
pressure, from diabetes, from other things, because people will not be the wellness, right?
Exactly.
You will take the people will not think very well to live when they are the freedom is at risk.
Correct.
So yes, the state has to protect people, but at a certain time, you cannot just take people's freedom just to take your freedom, and you put forward people's protection. I think people's protection also is people's responsibility, right?
Correct. Correct.
It's people's responsibility. So pretty much the state and the governments around the world should educate people, give the information, and make sure people understand and protect the most vulnerable people who cannot make decisions for themselves, like kids, right? Or people
Correct.
without mental capacity to do it. Those people need this kind of protection, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
for myself, if you tell me that this is the way the virus works and I need a mask, I will wear my mask, right? If you tell me I'm supposed to respect, like, the physical distance, I will do it. And I think
Correct.
most people will do it. And by the way, you can see in New York, for example, there wasn't any kind of very strict measures as in um, China, but people
Mhm.
stay homes, right? Because
Correct.
they understand.
Correct.
And I think that's the way to go, instead of going like getting into people's phone and knowing what his people are doing in their bedrooms, right? I think it's going too far. And I think you cannot have a state of trees is a sort of human beings, and human beings is defined mainly by the, like, what, the freedom to act in a certain limit.
Correct. I agree with you. And that bring me, I really appreciate your answer. It was very thorough. So one of the things that, you have brought to my attention is
Yeah.
that a lot of time we have the situation where self-care is really important. And then the facts that you said that a lot of people will die from other, issues, health issues instead of the COVID-19.
Mhm.
And I agree. And the fact that we look at data, a lot of the data that been showing us, a lot of the spike and a lot of death has been taking around, the people of color that is in an area where they already have some type of condition,
Mhm.
such as condition through stress. They end up having diabetics or high blood pressure and other,
Mhm. Mhm.
immune deficiency issues. And so although that they were young, a lot of them become casualty to COVID-19. So as we look at this, how is this been impacted in Canada as well? Is it the same as it is, globally? And we know for the United States, 50% of the death has been coming from a lot of, a minority populations, which is like brown and black and people. Are you guys experiencing the same data in that regard?
Pretty much you should know that in Canada, minorities are very, very like small. So we're talking now about visible minority, right? And then normally I would say that we 32% of the population, right, are considered from some ethnic, right, origin, are not Caucasian.
Correct.
But what we have seen, for example, in Quebec, where we have a kind of where things getting very, it's a hot, space.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen that in certain neighborhood, like in Montreal Nord, there are like a bunch of black people that are, affected. Why? Because they are working in the kind of essential things for very, I would say, um, for like a uh, pretty much a very low salary, right? A minimum salary, I see, wage, minimum
Mm-hmm.
wage, working for minimum
Correct.
wage, right? And
Correct.
then those people are affected also because I don't think they have those kind of PPE necessary to
Mm-hmm.
to prevent them from getting the disease, right? Uh,
Correct.
so we have heard like a few casualties into those Haitian minorities in Quebec, right? But besides that, we don't have any echo of kind of statistics that will can put by ethnicity, and especially like in Manitoba, we have only six casualties, right? Six, right?
Correct. Correct.
For a 1 million 1 million people, right? Uh,
Correct.
so we have only six casualties. So pretty much it's not it's not that bad, but we understand that high blood pressure, diabetes, and you made it, other things also
Mhm.
are related to some social life, the lifestyle people are.
Correct.
All right. So if okay, let's start by the basics, right? People don't have access to clean water. If you don't have access to like barely like the minimum calorie per days you should eat, and if you can like eat properly, right? So pretty much you are very vulnerable to disease.
Correct.
And it just start like this. When, for example, you have to just only go to McDonald's to eat something with $2 per day, right?
Hmm.
So how can
Hmm.
you enhance your immune system?
That's right.
So pretty much what the data, okay, is telling us is like there are some conditions underlying, there are some social and economic conditions that are not acceptable
Correct.
for those people. And then that's why for every kind of situation, either they are in education, okay, they have the I would say the weakest school, right, in terms of performance, right?
Correct.
Same thing in school, in education, same thing in healthcare, because they don't cannot get the services they need because primarily it's a private system. Okay, so
Correct.
it's a private system. People need insurance. If it's insurance, people have to pay insurance. If you have to pay insurance, you need a good job, right?
Correct.
and
Correct.
then
Agree.
and then it never ends, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
so I think also it's another wow moment, or it's
Yeah,
another teaching moment to
it
just say,
is.
you know what, we cannot continue like this. Those people should have access to the basic healthcare they need. They need the kids need access to, so, at least 2 meals per day,
Correct.
and there are like decent meals per day, not
Correct.
just sorry, some garbage, eat everything they have because they don't have any choice. So they
Exactly.
cannot, when you are in a position when you cannot pretty much choose what to eat, you eat anything.
Correct. Correct.
And that's
It
the
is.
premise is for every disease, for every to get very vulnerable. And that's,
Exactly.
yeah, you become a
Exactly.
target. You become pretty much a target for any kind of thing.
Exactly, exactly. I totally agree with you. So that brings us to a very good point, and that point will be that when we're looking at the third world countries, we know a lot of the third world countries doesn't really, follow what we call self-care and really pay attention to, how many meals that they actually have, or the lack of how many meals they will have for that day or for that weeks. And also when we look at the third world countries, there was a lot of the necessity in regard to, having the accessible to grow the food and also having accessible clean water. So with that being said, in regard to science and technology, which is talk about data, how do you project that will impact the third world countries that have all these lack not
Okay.
being met?
um we have also to talk about, we have to also put some uh, some reserve, right, about those countries. First of all, what we should understand is, I don't know lately if you see like the vaccine, BCG vaccine, for example, and that can prevent people from getting tuberculosis.
Correct.
Okay, so what we have seen is the countries who received that vaccine, okay, early on when people are like kids, okay, those countries have some kind of policy to get kids back, to get kids to have kids vaccinated for those with the BCG, so they have a kind of I would say immunity, but there are less casualties, right? We know that. Okay, and
Correct.
second, um, you have also a bunch of countries with the sun. Also, we know that the UV of the sun, especially the UV, uh, uh, the C category, right? We have A, B,
Correct.
C. The C
Correct.
category of the UV, ultraviolet of the sun, helps also, right? To
Correct.
just sanitize those things. And third, you have a few countries also. They went through Ebola and other things. So pretty much, you have some good practices, right?
Correct.
Because they have some best practices because they have learned from
Correct.
Ebola, right?
Correct.
And that's the same thing to you have with I don't know, it's not Taiwan, but another country right now. So because they get hit by SARS before, so they know what to do.
Correct.
So pretty much, I think it's the first time United States or North America is facing this kind of things, and France and the Western countries. So now
Mm-hmm.
we have learned things, and now if there's a second thing, God forbids, we know pretty much, right, how to get into it because we've been there. And
Okay.
third of all, also you have a kind of resilience, okay, from those people, because there's a kind of community living in this country. And I can tell you, it's really hard for the poor in a rich world than for the poor a in third world countries. In a third world country, you know that you have to provide for your neighbors, right? You
Correct.
know that you have this cousin, you should pretty much feed the cousin, and if you
Mm-hmm.
are working, you have 10 or 15 people, right?
Correct.
That you have to provide for. In a rich country, okay, people are really, it's not selfishness, but people are concerned by themselves, their kids,
Mm-hmm.
their house,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's me, my house, and me. So everything, my car, my dog. so
Mm-hmm.
so pretty much sometimes we don't take this time to help people that are the most vulnerable into the system, and they are just left behind by the government or by other citizens, fellow
Wow.
citizens, right?
Wow. This
And
is amazing. You have brought me to a very, very good point. And that.
and then let me finish with this. And then there are like other things too about the immune system. So those people also in country like Haiti, they have what we call the medicine for the poor. So what they do pretty much, they go to the field and get some leaves and get some teas, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
know that there are some plants that can pretty much help the system in the long run. We know that. That's for
Mm-hmm.
sure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think from the beginning, those people start, getting some plants, getting some, teas, getting some decoction and infusion, things like that. So we have what we call the traditional medicine practices in those
Mm-hmm.
countries.
Mm-hmm.
So those are a bunch of factors we have to that should be taken into account. And in Haiti, particularly, we have three months, right, where the country was like very like shut down, so
Mm-hmm.
there's no airplanes, nothing. So that helps also. I think
Mm-hmm.
from October,
Correct.
November, December, the country was locked, pretty much locked down.
Correct.
So that helped because you don't have this kind of movement of population or tourists visiting, So pretty much that prevents,
Yes.
that helps in terms of the statistic and casualties.
Correct, correct. I agree with you. So you have brought me to a very good point, and that says that when you said a lot of time people are more concerned about, their belonging and their family and themselves, that brought me to at this rate that we're going through, yes, it's good that a lot of different country has built resilient. Yes, a lot of different global citizen not only built resilient, but they also has been through different pandemic. And we know the last pandemic that we have was in 1968, which was the Hong Kong flu.
Mhm.
And yeah, there is way where they have, you know, built some prior knowledge that yes, the third world country has been to different pandemics and different situations that's different from, more of the Europeans and the, United States of America, Canada, some of these, greater power nations. And because of that, they have built resilience, we agree. And they also have learned how to, partake and take care of one another. And also we have been through the last Hong Kong flu in 1968, 67, 68. So these situations supposed to have taught us how to live as a global citizen or as a community unit. But what we're seeing right now is that everybody has becoming so sufficient within themselves in their own little unit or their own niche within the ecosystem. So they're forgetting the aspect of living into a community, and within the community, we all are global citizen that's supposed to look for one another. So why am I saying this? To bring us to the point, do you believe in this situation that we are going through right now, is an open door or a paradigm shift for the world system, the health system, the technological and science and NASA, and all these different greatest entities that really in philosophical individual to bring in everyone together to have a new global world that humanity can actually be proud of, and they become in a place where they are more loving and caring for one another and living more into a community. Do you foresee that in this light of this
Uh,
COVID-19?
I think that's where this experience, right, this global experience, should lead us, right? And but I'm not skeptical, but I have some reserve because I don't think people have learned the right lessons. And I'm talking people who like can make the decisions, right? People who are like in power, people who can have a bunch of like impact in terms of the decisions they can actually make. And I think it's a rare opportunity for us to be pretty much wiser, right? And to become more human, to know
Correct.
exactly that whatever we have, whatever we can accomplish, we are still a like pretty much basically we are a human being and full of vulnerabilities, full of
Correct.
vulnerabilities, and I think there are certain ways that our walls cannot protect us.
Correct.
And when I'm talking walls, I'm talking like the social barriers, I'm talking the
Correct.
economic barriers, I'm talking about the kind of esprit de clocher, meaning this kind of clan, right? The clanic kind of
Correct.
a shift where you're not a part of the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of exclusive clubs. People should understand that now, whoever you are a human being, and a human being, you have this kind of you are made with this body, and this body has a kind of it has its own characteristics, and whatever your name and wherever you are, we have the same kind of we are made with the same kind of materials, right? I mean the same fabric.
Correct.
Yeah, we
Correct.
are made we are made in the same way with lungs, whatever, with a heart, and then
Mm-hmm.
so what does that mean when our neighbors are in like danger, when they are like when they are facing like a kind of disease as like the virus and infection, you are not so protected, you are not
Correct.
so protected. Okay, so that's why now you see that the virus have traveled, right? How? With airplanes. That's why they shut down the airports, right? So in a
Mm-hmm.
kind of very globalized world, we should know that we are so connected. So if we are so connected, now we have to look for the others too.
Correct.
We have to look for the others. We have to say, you know what? They are in danger. And if we don't act, things can get badly. And for us also, it will be bad. So I think, and how you do that, you're not doing that in belittling people, you do that in empowering people
Correct.
with knowledge, financial assistance when they need it, and also some responsibility. and i
Agree.
think and I think that's the part of it. We should be very humble to know exactly we don't know it all. We have to learn it all, but we don't know it all.
Correct.
And then I think this kind of openness to learn, not only in the books, but with other people experiences, right?
Correct.
And with other people knowledge, because we know in the world there are uh, some like ethnic groups with some kind of very important knowledge about nature.
Mm-hmm.
We
Agree.
shouldn't neglect those. We shouldn't, like, um, discount those knowledge.
Correct.
They shouldn't be
Correct.
discounted, because do not forget, in 1918, like for the Spanish flu, you have a bunch of population like with the Aboriginal people. They survive because of a plant they use.
Correct.
Zero casualty within their community. So what does that mean? I think now it's not just to globalize, that people can just travel the world, but also there are some very important and essential knowledge to keep us alive that we should globalize also. I think it's a time now for agriculture to have the equal part, right, into the cake.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
there's a need now for every community to have a voice into the global healthcare system, not only the Western way of doing things.
Correct.
And 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 I think if we can do that, if we can get this kind of mixture, right, we should
Yes.
be more ready for the next pandemic or for the next threat to the world. If we can, if we can sit down and say, this is what I know, but there are a bunch of things that I don't know, I better listen to other people come from different countries, different worlds, and understand. And
I
I
agree.
think it's not because we have more money that give us a kind of advantage into that within this discourse. I think it's more about being humble and being open to learn and to grow together. Because when you say we are into this together, actually we should mean it.
I agree. I
That's
agree.
my point.
I agree. That's a very great call to action because you literally like give us the call to action. So as global citizen, our call to action is that number one, we need to be, you know, we need to be in a nation that nations that is humble, first of all. And two, we need to not be so, upstuck that my way is the only way,
Anyway,
but we need to partake together. And then we also need to know where one another need assistance. We need to come through and help with the assistant. And we also need to go
and
ahead
respectfully,
on the foot
respectfully,
matter
and
to
respectfully.
educate.
Yes, and treating
Yeah.
people with dignity. It's not because we're trying to help
Yes.
people to just impose them our views. We should do it with
I
some
agree.
dignity.
I agree. So that's really great call to action. This is what we as the human race need to do at this point in this pivotal moment as the shifting during this COVID-19. Every citizen has a responsibility, and the responsibility is not just about taking care of myself and my family, but it's to take care of each one, help one. So we know that in education is each one teach one, but in this case it's each one help one globally, not just in my own little space or in my own continent, but it has to be a global seven continent come together. This is what I know about medical, this is what I know about science, this is what I know about technical, this is what
Mhm.
I know about data, and let's put ourselves together to build a new world structure. And then not only building a new world structure, but also building a new healthcare system
Mhm.
so that we will be forever ready and have the indication to be able to go through the next pandemic. Because as long that we are still here as humankind, there is always going to be some forms of virus or some forms of type of infections that may happen or that come about that we need to deal with. But if we are united in one, really united as one, we can overcome all of that And that is a very good point. I really like the way that you put your answers together. You know, the audience is going to love that a lot. And I know that they're enjoying this. So moving forward, because you are into the science and technology, I want to ask you, and knowing that this world is heterogeneous, meaning that we have
Yes.
different demographic like we talk about.
Mhm.
So with innovation, will innovation be the same across the board, or do you perceive it to be different depending on different continent, because we are living in a heterogeneous ecosystem as a global citizen? How do you see that in that world of science and technology?
What I would say is, I think that in terms of the urge, right, to create and the creative experience and the creative pretty much mind is everywhere and is blooming everywhere, right, in the world, into the world right now. And technology become this kind of give us this kind of leverage, right, to go faster into till the innovation thing. But the main thing here is uh, actually there's a big gap in technology, right? And
Correct.
and also it's not just about the technology, but also the cognitive part of it, because more people are like better educated you are, like further you can go with the technology. So
Correct.
that's why in this field we're talking about, we 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 make the difference, right, between tools
Mm-hmm.
and instruments, right?
Correct. Correct.
Actually, for a few people, right, by a bunch of people, instead of using the technology are using them, right? First of all,
Correct.
you have a few people, they are using the technology as a tool, so meaning they are like the basic or the mid usage, right? Level, mid-level, okay, usage of the technology. And you have another level where you can transform the tool into instrument, but now you have to put some thoughts into it. You
Mm-hmm.
have to put some thinking into it. And unless that we are working on a better global education system for the world, I can tell you, for example, the OAS, Organization of the American States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 5 years ago, okay, there was a kind of statistic saying that the Caribbean region actually is 25 years behind in science education. So meaning, right? Meaning the average kid, okay, the average student, high school or elementary student, okay, in the Caribbean area right now, they are working at 25 years, no, with 25 years, okay, behind
Right.
of
Wow.
students in North
That's
America.
facts. That's facts.
Okay,
Correct.
facts. So now, yes, we can equally, even they have like the same machines, the same programs, the same computers, the same software, the same online things. If you do not work on the education part, people will miss the boat. So you have to work like at the same time, right? You're working on those like innovation things. You have also to work on a better education system, which is like quality education for all first, and then technology will be a great leverage, okay, to boost this kind of innovation. And of course, innovation will not be the same around the world, because people are not thinking the same way, right? They don't have the same tools, they don't have the
Correct.
same experiences. And
Correct.
you can sit like with a few people getting into a company, right? We have a few people, they if they leave a company, if they just quit a company, what's going on? The company just goes down, just go down, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
if you have a few people, you get those people in, and now you will see change, you will see things, because those people have maybe have like other experiences, they know other things, and when you have those things combined together, those kind of new ideas, new ways of doing things, new methodology, new paradigm, and that's where exactly things happen.
I agree. So when with that being said, I agree with what you said, because with being that we are in a heterogeneous, you know, ecosystem, with the aftermath, when all this is over with COVID-19 pandemic, we foreseen that innovation will be a big move for the next 20, 30, 50 years, that we are going to be more evolved technological world. So, with that being said, do you believe that, innovation will occur by consideration of where you are in the global diaspora?
Yes, definitely, definitely, and especially with I think the massification of AI, uh, artificial
Correct.
intelligence, and with some deep learning, I think I think people will go faster. But in the same time, we have to work on our own bias also, because when you talk about like the machine learning thing, the machine learning actually is being fed by exactly what we put in it. Right?
Correct.
If we put our own bias, so if our models actually are so close and are so exclusive, so those machine and those innovation also will work for a few, right?
Like, I agree. I
and
agree.
and and I think in building those models, because those AI things, those deep learning, machine learning, they will go with what? With whatever models we put in.
Correct.
So
So my
unless we work on our own bias and have some quality thinking and more inclusive thinking, so I don't think I think also AI can have this kind of really reverse, right, consequence in terms of just continuing to widen the gap between those who have those who don't.
You're right. I agree. I agree. So with that being said, you have brought me to a very good point. It just bring that to my thoughts, with knowing that AI is going to be a major part in our evolution or revolutionary, shifting into this new paradigm. It is a great time that, for us to understand who and what will each nation need for them to be repositioning or retend what they already have, or what they need to have in order for them to succeed as a nation within the global diaspora. Because when we're talking about the global diaspora, we have to know that they are, each unit and separately has their own assignment, and then within their own assignment they will come, collectively together to meet all the pieces, so that we can have a humanity or global, harmony that will evolve in the technological ages that we going into a smoother, generation that we have in the past, decades.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
So what is your what do you think we will need to be repositioning?
I think my take into this is just to understand that every nation in the world actually is part of a like worldwide network, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the strength of the system, okay, is very close to the weakest part of the system.
Hmm.
So whatever whatever like the size, okay, of your own country, of your own unit, okay, if you have a unit that is very weak into the system, actually it's a kind of threat for the whole system.
It
So
is.
what we should understand is we will not have a better world where you have people living in kind of inhuman conditions around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That weaken the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
And then why? Because everything can happen. So when people are living like with $1 per day, right? They are a target for every single thing, for criminal act, right?
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
any kind
Correct.
of disease, infectious disease, and you name it. So that's why it's very important actually to have a kind of, I would say, a kind of prototype to say, yes, we understand we couldn't put people at the same level. It wouldn't happen because there's diversity. Okay, we can have diversity in the wealth we have and diversity in everything. But at the same time,
Correct.
we should have a kind of benchmark where we don't want anybody in this world to go below. And this kind of benchmark, okay, for this kind of prototype of global citizen you're talking about, if you have this kind of benchmark, say, you know what, uh, everybody in this world need at least a $10 to live for a day. It's such an example, right? It's
Correct.
nothing official. I'm not studying it. I'm just putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have a kind of benchmark saying this is what we need to have at least a decent, okay, day in terms of self-care per day, we have to be able to do that, and we have to be able to make it accessible for every citizen in the world. And you know what? The bigger we are as a country, the more we should support that and help
I agree. Wow,
into
that
it.
is
We
amazing.
have a greater
That is,
responsibility because we are in a position where we can do things.
agree, agree,
Yeah.
agree. This is really awesome. So that brings me to this. So therefore, you agree that it is important for leaders to invest in innovation in the mode of not only to advance the technological world, but to also educate and to set benchmark for every global citizen so that everybody, even though we won't be at the exact same level, but we have a commonality for, a community, congruence and a community resilient together so that when something do happen, we all in this together, really in the facts of what it means to be together.
Yes, yes, and I think it's a kind of also community thinking thing. So meaning we have to invest in our own communities. And what I'm saying is, it's not like a country with country, but also citizen with citizen, church with church. You understand? So
Correct.
it's a kind of way of thinking to say, you know what? If my neighborhood is not doing well, I won't be able to do well.
Correct.
Okay, so what can I do, okay, with respect to those people's dignity to empower them?
Hmm.
And
Agree.
that's the real question. If we can find a real, like an authentic answer for this question, I think we are already very far into fostering this kind of
Yeah.
a benchmark for like everyone. We need a benchmark. We need a
Awesome.
benchmark.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So that will be an assignment. You, as a scientist, technological person and a science person, to begin to think about with your team, and I guess all the world and science and technology will be, pondering upon these questions to have a better answer for all the global citizen on how we move forward on this. So I'm gonna bring in Kirby. She has a questions, and then I'm gonna let her to, speak, and then we'll wrap it up. It has been an amazing show. Thank you so much, Dr. Bolivar. You have been very well informed.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Dr.
Thank
Bolivar.
Yes.
Hi, I do have one question. From listening to all of this and you being a scientist, what's gonna be the aftermath? What is your thoughts on the aftermath of all of this from Canada to like in the U.S. Do you what's gonna happen? What's your thoughts on what's gonna happen after the aftermath of all of this, or even if there will be an aftermath?
Definitely. I think that will not go forever. So there will be kind of end to this, either by a kind of some vaccine or treatment,
Mm-hmm.
or by what we call herd immunity, right? If you have many people having it, so they won't be vulnerable again, right? Or at least for years to get it back, right?
Right.
We know that in a few countries, there was a kind of worry about people getting reinfected again. But what now they say is it's the kind of dead viruses they find into people's body. So pretty much, and that's good news. So people will not get sick again, right? Having that for a first time. So the herd immunity also will help because you have a bunch of people that are asymptomatic, at least more than 50%,
Mm-hmm.
no symptoms at all. So all those people, they will get this kind of immunity, right?
Right.
So when you get those people with kind of immunity, people who are sick with this kind of immunity. So now the population itself, right, will get this kind of immunity, and then at a certain time, it will be maybe as like HIV or something else, right? Without the chronic, but not a pandemic, right? Chronic disease. So what I would say is the aftermath, you have a bunch of things now. First of all, we have a kind of, before that, there's a kind of nationalism where the countries want to close the borders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the States, the president was talking about a war, actually.
Oh, yeah. I heard
So
that.
what you can see is in terms of immigration policy, those things will become harder,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now they understand if there's any epidemic or something or pandemic, you have to provide for everybody.
Right.
So for all the refugees, for all your citizen refugees and foreigners. So I think I'm expecting that immigration laws and policy will be very like it will be stricter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's globally between nations and within nations. What I'm thinking is like even now the way we work now, because people will see that, oh, you know what, the virtual work is working good for the company. They don't have to pay for electricity, for the Wi-Fi, right? And a bunch of things for the coffee into the office. So, oh, maybe people will stay at home and work. So
Right.
you will see, and I'm very confident on that, that a bunch of businesses will redesign the way people work and the relationship to the office.
Gotcha.
Okay? And then aftermath in education also, I think a bunch of government will see how now they can have a kind of hybrid system between going to schools and staying home and taking classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in education also, you will see some changes into more online presence, right, of students. So
Uh-huh.
now what could happen is now it'll be very competitive also to get some jobs, because now what could happen, so now I can be maybe in Manitoba and working for Quebec in a school. So more virtual schools. We have some virtual schools actually, okay?
Yeah.
Schools
I,
that are very virtual, like in terms of elementary and high school. But now I think we will see more and more of that, okay?
right.
Um, and in terms also of like a social relationship, things like that, people will be maybe very cautious and maybe kind of less open, right, to strangers. And that is normal. But with time, I think the hugs will come back again, the kisses will come back again. So because human beings are like a people being, right? So we need this kind of a warm relationship. We need this kind of kind of close relationship, okay, in order to do that. By the way, do not forget that this kind of social distance, intimate distance, it's from war, okay. He was an anthropologist, okay. We're talking about those kind of distances and studying human relationships. And what they seen is in a certain culture, people need this kind of touching, okay?
Right.
Way, okay? People are touching each other. In the Western world, people are not touching each other. It's more, right? It's more we call that social distance, and you have to respect that, things
Right.
like that. So pretty much what we'll be saying is maybe those cultures where people are touching each other and have the kind of, always kind of the hugging, you will see maybe less of that for a certain time. But at a certain point too, if you don't have that, also you miss something. When you know someone, it's good to have a good hug, to have some handshake, right? A firm handshake. Those things also are very important in a business world, in the social world, and you name it. And I don't think Zoom can do a lot about it, right? At a certain point, people have to meet each other and with this kind of non-verbal, right, eyes to eyes and to eye to decide, right, face to face.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I just love this closing. You have given us a lot to think about for the aftermath for COVID-19.
Yeah.
And I am so excited of having you on the show. It has been a great pleasure to have you. You have really give a great insight and great tool to the audience for them to ponder upon and for them to begin to think as global citizen what they have to begin to think and how they need to put their mind together to move forward in light of COVID-19 pandemic.
Mhm.
And again, you hear it first in 360 degree with Dr. Baptiste. Again, we would like to thank you again, Dr. Bolivar, for being here and sharing your thoughts and your insight with everybody. And we thank you, Ms. Kirby, for the questions. It's well received and it was exactly what is needed. So before we close out, we want to thank our sponsors again, American Caribbean Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you need them, you know how to get in touch with them through www.accc.global. Again, we want to close out with a very special quote that I really like when this reporter, Sydney Harris, says that the real danger is not that computer will begin to think like men, but that men will
Thank
begin to think
like computer.
like computers.
That's why
And
I talk about not using the technology, but technology is using us. So that's pretty much the same kind of idea.
exactly. So with that being said, everybody have a good night. Do not become the computer.
Thank you,
Have
Dr.
a great
Baptist.
night and thank
Thank you,
you.
Kirby.
Thank you so much. Uh-huh.